Okay. Zoom might see my notes, but that's all right. So hi everyone. Like I said, my name's Rachel. I work for the Texas A&M Forest Service. I am our urban woodland ecologist. So I'm based out of San Antonio, but I cover 23 counties, so pretty big area. And pretty much my goal with the Forest Service is to promote and better our urban forests, so the trees that are in and around our communities. And I do that in a lot of ways. One of the things is education. So being here with y'all today, talking to y'all about trees and why they matter so much, but also supporting communities through grant funding, through tree planting. We were recently out in Kerrville, deploying what we call our strike team, where we go in and do rapid assessments of trees after natural disasters. This is also something that we did after Hurricane Harvey. So there's a lot of ways that we try to support our urban forests. So I really appreciate y'all allowing me to come out tonight and help me do that, help me teach y'all a little bit more about trees. So just real quick, by a show of hands, is there anyone who does not like trees? No? Okay, good. Just making sure. Wanted to make sure that we're starting off on the right foot. That's the answer I was hoping for, especially with this group. Yes, sir.
Anybody raise our hand who said that?
No, luckily not. Luckily, I'm usually with tree groups, so usually I'm with people who are pretty pro tree and happy to listen to me talk for an hour about this. Invasives are a different story. But yeah, there's a lot of reasons we like trees. You know, we like to stay in the shade. They keep us cool. They look really nice. But I'm going to talk a little bit more in depth about how trees help us in our community. And then next, I'm going to talk about what people are doing now. Some of the organizations and things that communities are doing right now to help support our trees in and around our communities. And then also I'm going to talk about tools that y'all can use. So things that y'all can do on your own or as a group, tools that y'all can use to help promote trees in and around your city. And yes.
Lines aren't it paints at all.
Oh, they aren't.
It's on the notes. Oh, you hit escape to get out of, yeah, okay.
So is it showing this on Zoom?
It's, no, you can see the notes on the bottom and everything, so. Shoot, we want it in presentation mode.
Mhm.
Let me get out of that, let's go back to this. And then now we need to go to, get the toolbar back up. And say share. Here, share. Yeah. Okay, just let me test real quick. Is that advancing?
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay,
So now-
perfect.
now I'll hide this. I can hide both too. I
That's
can
okay.
hide
That's up
the
on my screen too.
Video panel and hide the voting meeting. There you go. And you can hit page up to get back if you need to. Look at that.
All right. And so if I go to presenter view, does that work for y'all or no?
No.
And is it going forward?
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, we got it set. Thank y'all. The presentation. I'm okay with this being pretty conversational between us. You know, I will be going through PowerPoint slides, but I want y'all's input as well. And then after each section, I will pause for questions and comments. And so let's start with the air that we breathe. In fact, I want everyone right now to take a big breath in. Feels pretty good. And so just then you took some big breaths of oxygen. Your brain's like oxygen. It's something that's good for you, but you also breathed in everything else. So all the particles, tiny pollutants that are in the air, that's also going into our brains and bodies. And that's something that trees help with. Trees clean our air. And thanks to recent computer modeling, we can estimate the amount of pollutants such as carbon monoxide, sulfur dioxide, ozone, and particulate matter that trees help filter through the air that we breathe. And so here are some numbers showing that. One study in particular that collected data from 55 cities across the US estimated that trees remove over 711,000 metric tons of these pollutants. And put into dollars, trees are performing an air cleaning service of $3.8 billion. And so trees being good at taking pollutants and particles out of air is actually why I got into tree care in the first place. So I'm originally from Houston, and while I was getting my degree in plant soil sciences, I learned that in Houston, there's cancer pockets because of industries that are happening in Houston. There's neighborhoods that, are disproportionately affected by these industries. And one thing that has helped those neighborhoods is trees. Something so simple to go out and plant trees has helped people not get cancer. And we have these essential industries. They're things that make our lives move. They support our essential needs, especially in Houston. We have the ports bringing in all our goods. We have oil and gas. And by planting trees, this is something that we can help people's health with. So this one is really personal to me just because this is why I decided to start getting into tree care. And like I said, trees can prevent heart and lung ailments. So when people inhale fewer pollutants, this translates to a reduction in diseases that affect our heart and lungs. Number of studies which confirm this, but there's one in particular that was conducted across 15 states between 1990 and 2007, which took an unusual approach. Rather than measure how many people are affected when you add trees, this study questioned what happens to people when you take away trees. So who here has heard of the emerald ash borer? Anyone? EAB? Okay, yeah, a few hands. So it's not quite to us yet, but it is an invasive insect that is in the US, and it is pretty devastating to trees. So this is a street of ash trees. You can see every single tree down the line is dead. Emerald ash borers will eventually have a 100% kill rate amongst ash trees in an area where they are in the US. So a very devastating insect. It's currently, I believe, in 36 counties in Texas as of July. It's in the 30s. And it is coming our way. But in places that have had EAB, this is what their streets look like. So we've had communities that have been devastated by this. And this study analyzed the decline in population in ash trees, how it affected the health in 15 states. And what they found is that in the same period of time, when the insects had killed millions of trees in these areas, there were 6,113 more deaths than normal due to respiratory illness, and 15,080 more deaths due to cardiovascular disease. The study concluded, and I'm quoting directly here, the loss of the trees to the emerald ash borer increased mortality related to cardiovascular and lower respiratory tract illness. This finding adds to the growing evidence that natural environment provides major public health benefits. And this is one that is very, very clear that this loss of trees affected by the emerald ash borer directly contributed to more deaths due to lung and heart illness.
So
Yes, ma'am.
we have Texas ash here, but they're not really plentiful in our area. Is there some protection for them having such a diversity?
So all ash trees are susceptible. All ash trees that we have in Texas are susceptible to EAB. They have been getting closer and closer to our area. They haven't gotten here yet. And this is something that we monitor for every year. So whenever we do start finding emerald ash borer here, we will be able to tell everybody that and let the public know. It is coming closer. There's more counties every year where we find emerald ash borers. So it is something that most likely is going to eventually come through our communities here. And There are some chemical treatments, but they are something that you have to keep up every year. It's not something that lasts a long time, so it can be very expensive and not very cost effective for people to do. So mostly what we're telling communities is make sure that they have the funds beforehand to, whenever this does come through, remove the dead trees and replace them with new trees.
Is it in East Texas for that? Or-
Yeah, it started in Dallas area, and it's been coming down, kind of going through Waco right now. And we do have a map online that shows you, and it has the counties by color of what year it got there. So you can see the ones that were added this year. Yes, sir.
What's the process of the trees come down? You know, eliminating?
So you can just chip it. Yeah. What kills the tree is the larval stage that is in the tree burrowing, making those galleries inside the tree. But you do want to remove the tree before they emerge as adults the next spring, because thousands of, I think it's 6,000 to 7,000 adults can come out of a single tree. So removing the tree while it has the larvae in it is best, just to prevent them getting to maturity. But if there is a tree with EAB in it, we recommend go ahead and remove it because the tree isn't going to survive. But just removing it and chipping it up will be fine. Yes,
Are
ma'am.
they only ash trees?
Yes, only ash trees.
What eats it? What natural enemies do that?
So since it's an invasive, we don't have anything here that's super effective. There are woodpeckers, so you can kind of see behind this one, you can see the blonding in that bottom picture there. So you'll see woodpecker damage. Woodpeckers do eat them, but not to the extent that it's an effective control. There have been studies trying to bring in wasps from their native environment, which is Asia, and trying to get those wasps to be able to attack them. But yeah, but it hasn't been successful. Currently there are research efforts going on because this is something that is an issue for a lot of other states as well. Like this study was conducted in 15 states. So there's a lot of states where this is an issue, and there are studies that are ongoing. Hopefully they'll be able to find something where we can better control them, but we just don't have something right now. Yes, sir.
I noticed the gang here really got excited when we said bring wasps, but they don't realize that the wasps are inky dinky. They
Yeah.
aren't Wasps.
Yeah, they're not wasps that'll come sting you, they'll leave you alone. They're really tiny ones. But yeah, continuing on, some more studies that show and confirm the health benefits of trees. Two in particular stand out. One of them went from 2005 to 2006, and then one of them was in 2014. And in both cases, the test subjects were asked to have a series of nature exposures. So just going out in nature, being around trees, going on walks in the forest or park for a prescribed amount of time. And afterwards, their saliva was measured for levels of cholesterol and amylase. So this is what your body makes when you're under stress. So basically just fancy ways of measuring your stress levels. And what they found is a significant decrease in both of these after exposure to nature. And they also found that pulse rates and blood pressure decreased. So, we all take a walk around our neighborhood, take a walk through the park, and you realize, you're feeling a little bit better after feeling a little calmer. It's something that's backed by science now. We have research that does show this evidently. Another really cool quality of trees and green spaces in that even just looking at them out a window can help people recover faster. So this is Roger Ulrich, and his landmark study in the 70s is credited by many for launching an entire field known as healthcare design. So the design of our hospitals and how we care for people. And this is the title of his study. View through a window may influence recovery from surgery. In this study, patients were recovering from surgery and were put into two types of rooms. One that had a window facing a nice natural area with trees, and the other ones had a window that was facing a brick wall of a neighboring building. And so as you'll see, is that the ones with the rooms that could look into green spaces had shorter stays, received fewer negative evaluations from nurses, and needed fewer painkillers. So just by looking out the window, you know, right here, we have some nice trees outside. Just by looking out that can help you recover, help you feel better, help you need less painkillers. So trees are very powerful. Another study was done on children with ADHD, seeing if we can help them concentrate a little bit better. And so what this study did, it was participants ages 7 through 12 who had been diagnosed with ADHD, and they were divided up into two groups. One had a walk through city parks and the other through cityscapes. And after each walk, the researchers did a number of tests. So what they did was say a list of numbers and then ask the participants to repeat those numbers back in reverse order, which is just a common study used to see how well they're paying attention and what their focus is like. And in every single test done with these children who had ADHD, the ones who walked through the park performed better every single time. And so this is something that we can implement, you know, in our schools and maybe even every school, making sure that kids have this outdoor time, and not even outdoor time, but a playground that has trees in it, a playground that includes nature in it. You know, this is something that's really important, especially for these young kids, to be able to pay attention in school. That's something that can affect them for a very long time through life. So this is something that we can really make a big impact in our community with a little change, just by going out and planting trees around our schools. Another study focused on obesity in children. And this was a 2-year study focused on this. And it concluded that in children ages 3 through 16, and they had to be living at the same address for 24 months so they could make sure that it was due to this. They looked at how green their neighborhood was, how many parks they had by them. Did they have trees going down their street? And what you might guess is that higher greenness was associated with lower BMI scores. These children can go outside and play in the shade, play around the trees, go to parks, and being able to get them outside was able to lower their BMI and make them healthier. I wanted to also talk about some of the environmental effects that we have as well. So President Johnson once said, in order to save the water and soil, you have to start where the first raindrop hits the soil. So forests provide us with the cleanest water of any land use that we have. It's forests. So to wash our clothes, to shower, to drink, all of this water is going to be coming from our watersheds, and the ones with forests are going to be the cleanest. And as Texas's pollution increased, forests and woodlands decrease, and it puts our water supply at risk. Forested watersheds specifically being a source for clean water for over 180 million Americans. And trees absorb the rainfall. They recharge the aquifers. They slow and filter our stormwater and maintain our watershed stability and resilience. Trees also increase the water infiltration into the soil, and they help store and utilize water. So whenever we do have things like drought, our environment and our ecosystem is going to be more resilient to it. Trees also make our soil healthier and more stable. So you can see, here's a pretty clear picture, a low vegetation area versus a high vegetation area, how much erosion is happening there. So just by having the trees, it makes the raindrops not hit the soil as hard and not cause that direct erosion, but it also has its roots that are gripping onto that soil, holding it in place. And trees also support biodiversity. Obviously, we like all the benefits of trees. We like the shade, and that's a little cooler, but so do animals and insects and all sorts of things. And so being able to have our trees around us, it's going to support all the other biodiversity that we need. And biodiversity really underscores all the environmental benefits that we get. The more biodiverse our environment is, the more benefits we're going to be getting from it. And here's just a quick breakdown on the monetary value we reap from some of these services that trees do. So you can see it breaks it down per acre and then annual value, and this is for Texas specifically. How much money and benefits we're getting from these different ecosystem services that trees give us. And there's a lot of other benefits I could add to this list. We could go all day talking about all the good things that trees do. But I put a few more on the screen for y'all to go ahead and just read for yourselves, just to get an idea of how many more benefits we could be talking about today. And before we go on to the next section, does anybody have any questions or comments? Yes, sir.
So, when you use the term trees and the statistics, generally deciduous, evergreen.
Most of these don't have a difference. It just trees in general will provide those. There are resources where you can look at if it's something like carbon reduction or air cleaning. There will be differences, and there are studies that go into specifically the differences that different trees can make for things like carbon. Yes, there is a resource I will talk about a little bit later. It's called iTree, and it's a free online resource. It's something that you can download as well, and it'll go into the benefits of individual trees. So you can put in the species, the size of the tree, and it'll go into the benefits of that specific individual tree. So you can see by using that what different species will give you. But for a lot of the social benefits, like, obesity or ADHD, there won't be a difference, but more for the things like the water and carbon, there will be a little bit different depending on the species. But again, biodiversity is also kind of the best solution.
City council members and developers don't seem to be aware of the economic benefits.
And that's one reason I really love this presentation. Yeah, that's one reason that I really love this presentation is doesn't seem to be moving up there, is because this is something that is really good for city council members to kind of show like, hey, here's the dollar amount of things. This is, I know you're dumping a ton of money into tree plantings and prunings and you don't want to spend all this money, but you're getting monetary benefits out of it. Please think of it as infrastructure. And that's one of the reasons I really like this presentation is to kind of put it into the perspective that trees are infrastructure. They do give us monetary benefits as well, and it's worth it to invest in. And some of the things I'll talk about later are ways that tools that y'all can use and yield against people. If you have somebody on a city council or in a HOA that's really hesitant to spend money on trees, there's some tools later on that you can bring at them and say, no, look, we're getting monetary benefits. It's worth it. It'll be okay if we spend this much on trees.
Cutting down what's existing.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you plant a new tree,
Mm-hmm.
that's not gonna be what
Yeah. And it does take time. And that's one of the hard things is, finding that balance between, our power lines. And if a tree's grown into a power line, we can't have that. So, yes, sir.
Comment. The Texas legislature made it, easy to take out cedar trees. And saying they were trash trees.
Mm-hmm.
And, I have a question about my cedars that are dying, but,
Mm-hmm.
they're not trash trees to me.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, is there anything being done about that? Is it changing? And then the second thing is you mentioned Kerrville.
Mm-hmm.
And it just really, besides, the loss of life was horrendous, but those pictures of that, just the trees, the few cypress trees and the pine trees and everything wiped out. You mentioned you had your team going up there.
Mhm.
Is Texas gonna do anything to try to replant those trees?
Yeah, so we're already having meetings about replanting. We're already in the works. I have a meeting tomorrow actually about seed collection for it. So it is something that we're in the works, and then we will be providing trees. There's a lot of organizations that will be providing trees. We probably won't be tree planting for at least a year, maybe two, because there's a lot of recovery and cleanup that has to happen before that. There's also a program called Tree Covery, all one word, Tree Covery, and it's an organization that you can donate to, and they give trees after natural disasters. So they give trees to Rockport after Harvey, and Rockport is still receiving trees. There are trees that are given to the city to be planted, but then also free trees to be given to homeowners to plant on their property as well. So Tree Covery is a really good program. They'll for sure be coming in a little bit later into the conversation. So there is a lot of stuff going into it, and we are putting a lot of effort into it, but tree planting won't happen quite right away. But right now we're mainly working on preserving what's there. So that's what I was doing in Kerrville is we went out and we went through those areas that had the worst of the damage in it. And we went through and I marked every tree that shouldn't be removed. So whenever our sawyers come in and go through, if they see blue spray paint on a tree, they're not touching it. They're not removing it. So we were climbing debris to make sure we could mark all the trees that we could. We were getting messy, getting down and dirty with it, but we got it done. And so we're right now working to save the trees, and then planting will come next.
I recommend everybody here buy some blue spray.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, so we'll keep chugging along. So now I'm gonna show y'all some projects that are currently happening or have happened in other places that have been successful. So these are again things that you can show people in your community to say, hey, it worked somewhere else. So this is maybe something that we can do here. So the first one is one that we do. This was in Houston, and like I said, Houston doesn't have a lot of trees everywhere. So a heat mapping study identified that residents of the Kashmir Gardens neighborhood were at serious risk of the urban heat island effect. So, as part of our Green Futures program, 600 mature trees were planted in that neighborhood, and another 500 seedlings were distributed to local residents for free. And here, you can see the benefits that are projected over the next 20 years in terms of carbon removed from the atmosphere, air pollution eliminated, and stormwater runoff that has been removed by the additional trees. And also, sure, probably a lot of y'all heard about Harvey and the flooding that happened. This is something that will help with that as well. So it'll help the people be able to breathe healthier air, but also help a little bit with the flooding issues as well that Houston has.
You also look at the transpiration rate so that you know how much water vapor is going into it and maybe for rain.
I actually haven't seen any specific studies about transpiration rates for how much humidity is increased. Houston's pretty humid, so it's already about 95% humidity. So another 1% won't do too much. I'll tell you that. But I actually haven't seen any studies specifically talking about that, but that's very interesting. Here's another one, and earlier we talked about how trees can lower blood pressure and reduce heart disease. And so this project was a really good example of that. So this was done by the Philadelphia Horticulture Society, and they have been greening vacant lots such as this and encouraging urban forestry since 2004. And this is part of the Philadelphia Land Care Program. And what they see, so this is the before picture, this is the vacant lot, and then this is the after. So it's a huge transformation, you know, just by planting a few trees, doing a little fixer upper for that. And the American Journal for Public Health actually asked community members in this neighborhood to participate in a research looking for possible health benefits of this. So they found that the vacant lots that had been refurbished, they had trees planted, it looks nice, it has grass. The heart rate of the people were now lowered by 5 beats per minute compared to the unimproved vacant lots. So it's just something as simple as this that's done by their local communities is having a really big impact on people's health in their day-to-day lives. Next, we're going to head to Louisville, Kentucky. So famous for their baseball bats. Unfortunately, those take trees. And so Louisville is losing tens of thousands of trees every year. And one of the results is that the American Lung Association gave them a failing score for their air quality, for how much pollutants they're releasing and how few trees they have. So the University of Louisville launched their Green Hearts Initiative to plant trees in neighborhoods that needed it most. And they also studied the impact on the human health, specifically heart disease and diabetes. And do we have audio? Are y'all able to turn it up?
Put your mic next to
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
I don't think that's. Does that help?
No.
Where's the shot?
I know, always. Hmm? Yeah.
The noise is coming from the TV. Yeah.
The study found neighborhood greatness affects us on the residents. We're invited to talks from several South local communities to join the study. The tree volunteers help before and after planting vegetation in the area for the see on increase meetings, affects lifestyle choices, social culture. And we have also measured levels of their personal. Looking on and happen. See what the trees and traps is about. And it is only activity that here's the green part about them. We hope to positively impact our profile. Develop how to design city. One that is other cities across the world. To learn more about the green heart or to get involved in Google, visit greenheartgoogle.com. We're rooting for success.
The study's underway. Do they have results back?
Yes,
or-
not quite yet. So the study is still currently happening. And so hopefully we'll be able to see the results of this soon. But also part of the study is that they're planting more trees and greening their neighborhoods. So there's good things that happen along the way with this study. All right, so this one is in California and done by the LA Parks Foundation. And this is their Park Forest Initiative. It started in 2001 and the foundation has been planting what they call mini forests or clusters of trees, usually about 20, in parks that really need more tree shade. And here you can see a picture of them about to do it in one of their parks, about to plant those trees. And the foundation has 4 goals for this project: to fight climate change, provide more shade for neighborhoods with fewer trees, replant trees that have been damaged or killed by wildfires, and create new wildlife habitats. And this one is actually in Dallas, so this one's pretty close to us. And in 2017, the Texas Tree Foundation published the Urban Heat Island Management Study. And this will hopefully become a roadmap for planting more trees in Dallas. So this is a bit of a community guide, and it tells them it's a study that looks at Dallas, looks at the trees, looks at their streets that have trees versus don't have trees, and highlights areas that would best benefit from having trees planted and identifies areas where that could happen. So things like this that are coming out, this is something that could be brought to, city councils and people, bring their attention to it and hopefully help us find ways to better manage our cities and our trees. And so as you can see, this is what was reported. It's showing that 280,000 new trees could reduce the temperatures in Dallas, which would yield multiple health benefits. And the report is available for free online.
Do you have a resource sheet or is there a slide with all the resources that you're talking about?
I can email the presentation so then it can be distributed to y'all. I can have y'all save the presentation so then y'all have all these resources. And there's also at the end of the presentation, I do have a list of links. So if go ahead and just download the presentation, go to the end of it, and there's links to all of the studies and things like that that are on there. The next program with you is called Park RX, and it's currently happening in 50 cities across the US. So here's another video. So everybody be ready to listen close. And here's all the cities that are currently participating in this. And so I don't think pharmacists are literally giving out basketballs and tennis shoes to people, but you get the idea where we're trying to encourage doctors to, instead of going straight to medicine, also prescribing things to get outside to help people. And this is something that has become more and more popular, just to give prescriptions for people to go out in nature settings and get a nature dose. And so here's something that is also very similar. This is Dr. Daniel Porter at the Lone Star Family Health Center. This is in Conroe. And he writes prescriptions for some of his patients to spend more time walking, exercising, and playing sports in natural settings. And he also participates in a national program known as Walk with a Doc. And he can go ahead and tell you a little bit more about that.
We have a printout of our putting for them the local things they can go explore. And we're trying to get. Even if it's just once a week, we show within an hour outside. A lot of mental health issues. Here for us. Present. As a primary care doctor, start wondering what else is offer. Right? Me, the first makes it 4 or 5. And it has to be in the entire country. That's one aspect of the The other is to try to do a walk for it off program once a week. And encourage our patients going and it's a local park. We'll walk with it off. And then we start with a 10-minute presentation on a health topic. And then walk for about an hour. You walk to the stop. More and more data is showing that we found active national studies with people in the PDS reduction as the science progresses, that's what I find. That's what I'm glad to do is science, and I want to prove, I want that as important. So as a primary care physician, I'm trying to take care of the whole and the whole team for that state, and that boosts the health of that patient. And boost the health of our team.
All right, and I'll go on to another one. This is Cities for Trees. And this is a coalition that brings all these people together. So this is, there's 82 cities around the world. And it's usually based in the mayor's office or within other agencies that are fostering peer-to-peer learning and connection between these cities. So these cities are talking about what they're doing in each of their places to promote their urban forest, and they're sharing ideas and talking about what works, what doesn't, and bringing all those ideas into one place. And if you visit their website, you'll see a big grid like this of participating cities. And you can go ahead and click on the city that you're looking for. And it'll go ahead and tell you how they leverage the benefits of their trees. And so here's an example of what it says about Tree Baltimore. And this is one of their updates that they had, and each city has one like this. So it gives you really good ideas of what to do. And also they're showing their results and sharing their results. So you can kind of see what works, what doesn't, find something that'll fit you. I did also want to highlight, this is one of our programs with the Texas A&M Forest Service, and this is our interactive forest and water story map. And this is a really good tool to learn more about forests and waters, and it's something, it's again, free online. You can find it on our website. And you scroll through, and it's an interactive way to learn more about our forests and water and their relationship to each other. We also are part of the Southeastern Partnership for Forests and Water. And the goal is to sustain, enhance healthy, productive Texas forested watersheds. Like I said, these are so important. This is where most of our clean water comes from, and where our cleanest water comes from. And we're doing this so we can provide safe, reliable drinking water, and forest products. So it's something that we, the Texas A&M Forest Service, partner with a lot of other organizations to collaborate on this in this partnership. Right, any questions? All right, we'll keep going ahead. So lastly, I'll talk about some of the things that y'all can use. So some of the tools and things that we can show to y'all for y'all to use and make a difference. First one is Healthy Trees, Healthy Lives. They're the one that actually puts all of this research and presentation together. And all of these articles can be found on their website as well. It's an initiative that works to increase awareness of the connection between trees and human health, and to get people like you to turn that awareness into action. And so this is something that's on their website. It has a ton of articles on there. Like I said, a lot of them referenced in this presentation, and studies on how trees and human health intertwine. And so a lot of the case studies are also around the world. So you'll get a very wide breadth of things. And even prescriptions page, so specific ways that you can use trees to protect your own health as well as the health of people around you. So a ton of good resources on Healthy Trees, Healthy Lives. I very highly recommend checking it out. This is Nature Quant, and if you want to get a sense of how well your city is doing right now, this is something that you can do. So this is really good when it comes to leveraging your natural surroundings to protect human health. You can enter your location, you can even enter your own street address, and it'll analyze the data, including the density of tree cover, air pollution, air temperatures, how close you are to parks, green spaces, and other factors, and it'll give you a score. So once you put it in, this is kind of the score that you'll get. So you can see kind of what the worst and best scores look like, to give you an idea of how you're doing in your neighborhood and on your street. And here's an example. So this is our home office out in College Station. This is how they're doing. Pretty decent, 74.4, got 4 of those leaves highlighted. So they're doing pretty good. And this is something I definitely also recommend checking out. A lot of these online resources, they're all free. They're fairly easy to use. You can hop on them when you get home. Highly recommend it. It's pretty fun to look around. It's pretty interesting just to see some of this data. And it's also something that, again, is very helpful to have this data whenever you're going to somebody to try to convince them to spend money on trees. This is something that is a powerful tool to have.
Does that get updated?
I am not sure. They probably have it on their website. Probably some of it is annually. Things like temperature are probably something that is an annual update for average temperatures. Things like tree canopy will be a bit longer of a time period. This is iTree, so this one I talked a little bit about earlier. They have a ton of different things on it. When I was talking earlier about, the watershed benefits of our trees, the dollar amount that gives us, iTree Eco was actually one of the things that they used. So there's a lot of different trees. There's things on this website. There's my tree, iTree Design, iTree Eco, our trees, iTree Landscape. So a lot of different applications on this one that are very helpful. This was launched in 2006 by the US Forest Service, and I'll show a little video that shows a bit more.
Which is curbside construction, planting, maintenance, and lastly, shopping. Trees to offer, such as carbon compensation, air filtration, air conditioning, shade, flood prevention, revenue generator, stress reliever, food factory, and insect hotel. iTree revealed its worth. iTree is objective, shedding light and insight on the financial benefits by means of science. How does it work? iTree is a software program designed for managing and arranging individual trees. It calculates canopy surfaces instead of a number of trees. iTree calculates the annual and future revenue and also sheds light on the unknown financial benefits. It can also be linked to existing management systems. iTree supports policy and management. iTree reveals good management and maintenance in terms of revenue and costs and provides a well-founded basis for the investment and size of growth sites and planting. It offers insight into optimal tree selection in relation to climate and environmental goals, as well as with great advantages within asset management. Tree managers. By using iTree, you can offer insight into the added value of trees towards residents, city councils, municipalities, and the asset managers. Would you also like to make use of the benefits iTree has to offer? Look at www.itreetools.org.
So that one's one of my favorites. It's really useful and it gives you a lot of information. So a lot of times if you go on there, you can look at individual trees, you can look at groups of trees, and it'll give you kind of a receipt is what it'll print out for you. And it'll just tell you both environmental benefits, human benefits, and also economic benefits of trees. Yes, sir.
Particular tree or just trees in general?
Trees in general, but you can also do it by location. So you can do it by location, diameter, species of tree, things like that, and it'll be able to be pretty customized to your specific tree. And so this is their planting calculator. So if you're considering a tree planting project, you can use this to project the long-term benefits of how much carbon dioxide will be removed, the volume of storm water that will be filtered. So if you're pitching a planting idea, trying to get some people on board to go along with this planting project that you're doing, you can put numbers to it. Numbers are always really nice and hopefully help convince people to give y'all support for these types of projects. And here you can just see a partial list of the benefits of trees as well as the costs, which iTree can quantify for you. Tree equity score is another really good one. This is one that we do use somewhat frequently. So when you're considering planting new trees, this is a good place to go. And it shows you how to prioritize putting trees in areas of the greatest need to create more balance. So like I said about Houston, there's some areas that have, all these nice trees, and then some areas that are pretty barren. You're going to go down streets and streets and not see any trees. And tree equity score gives you a very easy way to see this in your communities. So it'll highlight areas where you can see where trees are needed and where trees are. And it'll also put a few other factors in there as well. So you can type in your own city and look at this. And it'll give you a score out of 100. And this is based on a few factors. So existing tree canopy, population density, average incomes and demographics, and it'll put all of that together and give you your tree equity score. And this is my favorite thing to look at on there, which is the map. It makes it really easy to see. So those green areas, leaning more towards the blue areas, those are going to start being your places that have a lot of trees, that are doing pretty good on their tree equity score. And then those orange areas are places where they might need a little more help. They might need more assistance. So this is the one for College Station, and you can see very easily, where those orange areas are. So if you're planning a tree planting in your city, in your community, it's very easy to just look at this and then go investigate those orange areas. Do they have parks? Do they have places where we can put more trees? This is another really cool one. So this is the Vibrant Cities Lab. This site was created by the U.S. Forest Service, American Forests, and the National Association of Regional Councils, and is specifically designed for city managers, policymakers, and community leaders who are interested in urban forestry. As you can see, it's a dual purpose, is clearly stated. The site wants to help you make the case for planting trees and protecting existing ones and help you make it happen. And there's a step-by-step toolkit as well, which you can use through every phase of the process, from the initial assessments right down to caring for your newly planted trees. So this is really nice. This is great for cities. Not everybody's going to be a tree expert, especially if it's somebody who's a city manager. They probably are more on that side of things, maybe don't know so much about trees. So this is a great resource that walks them through that process. And I just wanted to show you, these are some of the things that we talked about earlier, and some of the things I recommend you looking out for. Again, we have a ton of resources on our site, and almost all of the other resources are on the Healthy Trees, Healthy Lives website. So definitely go to those two websites. There's a ton of information on both of them. And do we have any questions or anything? Yes, ma'am.
Species that you regard as more advantageous or better than others?
It really depends on the area. We like to say, right tree, right place. It's really site specific. So, you wouldn't plant a water oak where you're going to plant a live oak. Those are going to want two different things a little bit. I saw water oaks all over the place out in Houston, not so much out here. So it really is site dependent, even they're still in the oak family, but just a different species, and it really makes a big difference. So unfortunately, I can't just give you one tree that'll be, magical and thrive everywhere. It really is something that's pretty site specific. Yes, ma'am.
Can you take just a quick few minutes to talk about what homeowners can do to support their trees in our continuing drought?
Yeah, and it is really hard right now with the drought, especially because it's been so many years. I know recently with the rains that we've had this spring and summer, that the drought has eased a little bit, but trees take a long time to die. I've dealt with a lot of trees that have had construction damage, roots cut clean off, and that tree will not start declining until 5-7 years later. So they're very slow at dying. So, damages that you're seeing to your tree now might have started years ago. For drought, it's really hard because it's an environmental issue. Unfortunately, I can't make it rain. For mature trees, you can water But if it's a large piece of land, it's probably not practical, but really when it's an environmental effect, you just kind of have to let it take its course and start, maybe looking at planting more trees if you're starting to see a lot of decline. So you're at least planting a tree now to have it. Best day to plant a tree is yesterday. Try to get it in the ground as soon as possible. But yeah, when it's an environmental effect, like a drought, there's only so much that we can do. You can water your trees, if that's something that you will be doing. If you have 1 or 2 trees in the front yard that you want to water, when the soil's dry, water it kind of until it pools up on the surface. You really want that entire soil saturated down as deep as possible, but there's only so much you can do for drought. Yes, ma'am.
Oak Wilt, is that still?
Yeah. So Oak Wilt definitely is a concern. If you have questions about that, go to texasoakwilt.org. They have a ton of information. That is something that's the website that the Texas Forest Service does run. So head to texasoakwilt.org. And of course, we don't want you to prune any oak trees from February 1st to July 30th. No pruning during that period, but of course, if we have a storm that breaks branches off, if it's rubbing on a house, if it's hanging over a street, sometimes we do have to prune those trees and it's unavoidable. But making sure that we paint those wounds, and we want to paint those wounds year round. So if you're ever cutting anything off of an oak tree, you want to paint it immediately. And what we mean by immediately is make the cut, paint it. Don't make a few cuts and then go back and paint it. You'll miss them. You'll forget where you cut them and you'll lose it in the tree. Make a cut and immediately paint it. And you don't need any fancy paint. Get the cheapest spray paint you can get. Paint it with that. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. Yes, sir.
Question, when you did those 2 comparisons for College Station,
Mhm.
how do they compare with Boston?
Um,
Getting you so you might be able to rub the Walmart's nose in it.
I'm not sure, but you can, all those
All right.
really cool, iTree and My Tree USA, all those cool resources I showed you, all those maps, you can go check it out for yourself and get good at using those maps and practicing.
Did notice.
All right.
Yes, sir.
Asking for the premium.
Yeah.
If you're cutting down childberry trees in
Mhm.
areas like right of ways,
Mhm.
is there like legal?
That would depend on where you live, and I don't know your city's laws, so I would check your local laws for that. But maybe, it depends on the city. So just a few more things I wanted to highlight before we wrap up. And so here is one thing from the US Department of Agriculture is announcing a major investment in planting and caring for urban forests in our communities. So they invested over $1 billion for planting and caring for urban trees in our communities and forests. And here we'll tell you a little bit more about that. So this is a little bit old. This is from 2023. But things with trees take a long time. So this is something that we're still working on, and it's still in the process. And so there are things right now that are happening currently. And so the projects that they funded range from $100,000 all the way up to $50 million. So a big range of projects, big sizes of cities. And so all of these were accepted as of June 1st, 2023. So about 2 years ago. But yeah, there's a ton of projects still ongoing. We're always doing projects. The Forest Service does give out grants, so always keep an eye out for those for our community forestry grants. And like I said, we're a public resource, so please utilize us. Please use our websites, use the information and the resources that we have. And then here's my information, just so y'all have it. And if y'all have any other questions or comments, please let me know. Yes, sir.
Okay, so NSF funding.
Hmm?
How has, research funding from NSF affected A&M?
So we don't get them from NSF, we get it from the US Forest Service is where most of ours comes from. And as of right now, we have the same amount of funding. Funding is usually given a little bit in advance, so as of right now, we are funded. And we haven't had any change, but these are previous grants that we were awarded. Moving forward, the grants that are available, we're not sure, what will be available. It always is changing. But as of right now, we're funded and we're doing good, but we are a state agency.
So very, more, than the fall.
Soapberry?
Yeah, well, it's a relative of, the emerald ash borer.
No, it's only ash trees.
Yeah, but I mean, there's another species that apparently is attacking soapberries now.
I haven't heard of that. We haven't had, issues yet with that. We're mostly focusing right now on the oak wilt and the emerald ash borers. For soapberries, I haven't heard of the insects that are being an issue currently. Yes.
So do you know any places in San Antonio? I don't know where to get a big native tree. Like, I'd like to get a big aqua. Where can you get one?
I'm not sure. We also can't recommend specific places. I'm not sure specifically where, but I'm happy to hear that you're planting native trees. We always recommend that. There's a ton of places. I don't know about large trees. I will say I usually recommend planting smaller trees. Because a larger tree is going to have a harder time getting established. And that smaller tree that got established much quicker is gonna kick off growing, where that larger tree is gonna be stunted for a few years. And, in 5-10 years, you're not gonna be able to tell which one was the small one.
This big or this big?
This big is fine too, but usually I tell people the smaller the better. I understand that you do want to plant somewhat of a sizable tree. You don't want to mow over it. Which trust me, I have seen. But usually a smaller tree is going to have a better time adjusting and getting its roots in. And the faster it does that, the faster it's going to start growing and establish. Yes.
I went to an arborist company and they had a huge, a very large, 7-foot, native trees.
Mhm.
And I don't know where they got it, somehow, so.
Yeah, I think wholesales usually do have bigger trees, just because, big trees can be really hard to plant, so not many people are gonna be planting them that aren't landscape crews. Yes, sir. One last question.
I'm not gonna ask you what your favorite tree is, but I'm gonna say, what's a native tree to this area that you think is really underrated that more people should plant?
Well, I do have a favorite tree. My favorite tree is bald cypress. Those are my favorites. They have a place in my heart, a special place in my heart. Yes, ma'am.
Thinking about the ball type versus like a spot.
I haven't seen many Montezumas. I've only seen a few. I haven't heard of people having any issues with them. Just usually you see bald cypresses. I know Montezumas are less likely to get the knees. So I understand why people are more inclined to get them, is just less knees or less likely to have knees. But I haven't heard of a big difference. Again, I've only seen a few Montezumas. They are less common. But they should do well in this area as well.
It's one that I was.
Yes, ma'am.
This is a question in chat. She said, is there anything we need to be aware of that it's in legislation such as the law?
No, and we don't have anything to do with that. We're completely separate from that. We don't enforce laws, we don't create laws, we don't do anything like that, so that's not something that we're a part of. All right, well, thank y'all so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, it's very good.
Of course, I'm happy y'all enjoyed. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, no, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I live in an apartment, so I'm.
It's like this.
Yeah, usually like 5 to 10 gallon would probably be best. I know that it's nice to get a big tray, but really the small ones that push faster and then you don't like this.
I had a bird. Five guys.
Yeah. I will say one thing is, another thing is whenever you're looking for, make sure to look for circulating roots. You can go out the check for that. One big thing is people always want to make sure their bucks, so they get the biggest tree. And I'm kind of shoot themselves in the.
All right, I gotta skedaddle.
Thanks for your help.
Oh, you're very welcome. Have a good one. See you in a month.
Tell Sherry hi.
I will.
So like, if you have any other questions, you know, send them my way.